Very good afternoon. I would like to welcome our in-person and online participants to this policy dialogue on towards a circular and resilient economy in Europe, enabling valorization and uptake of recycled materials, organized by the European Policy Center and supported by SWETS. My name is Stefan Šipka. I'm heading EPC Sustainable Prosperity for Europe program, and I'll be moderating this discussion, which will aim to take stock of the EU's transition towards a circular economy with a focus on recycling and the uptake of secondary materials, given that there is still work to be done to complete the single market for waste, including also the role for EU policies to advance this transition, which bears significant importance for EU sustainability, competitiveness, and resilience. It is my pleasure to welcome Jessika Roswall, European Commissioner for Environment, Water Resilience, and a Competitive Circular Economy. Thank you very much for joining us. We will hear Commissioner's keynote address, followed by a brief Q&A with the participants. So think about your questions already now, and then we will come back and invite also our panelists to join us. So without further ado, Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. Moving from a linear, wasteful economy to a circular, sustainable one is a political priority for the EU and also personally for me. The circular economy used to be a conversation based on environmental and climate considerations. The dimension is obviously very important, but when speaking about circularity today, we also need to place the conversation in a much wider context of our security, our resilience, and our competitiveness in this geopolitical context. Getting to circularity is a change of mindset. We need to rethink how we live, how we do businesses, and how we interact with the world around us. This is a whole of society approach, and it needs a whole of society transition. Sorry. I've been talking too much today. I need a water. So the whole of society transition. So that is why I'm so very happy to be here today. For almost 30 years, the European Policy Center, EPC, has been providing a platform to engage stakeholders and citizens in EU policy making. So this is the ideal place to discuss the circular economy and to map out our path to a resilient and a sustainable future. Today we extract, we make, we use, we dump our products. Then we start from the beginning to do it all over again. It is bad for the planet, bad for our economies, and bad for our businesses. In the last 50 years, global extraction of resources has more than tripled. We are using natural resources nearly twice as fast as the ecosystem can regenerate them. It is not sustainable, it is not smart, and it's not strategic. The Circular Economy Act aims to break this destructive spiral before it's too late. The Act will build on several decades of waste legislation and on progress made under the European Green Deal. In parallel, we are working hard to make sure that the products on our markets are durable, repairable, and recyclable. But we are still almost 90% linear, and we are not moving far enough, neither fast enough, towards circularity. Some of this can be explained by the fact that much of the recent legislation promoting circularity has not entered into application yet. But as Enrico Letta and Mario Draghi highlighted, we need to get the economics right and create a single market for secondary raw materials. And this is exactly what the Circular Economy Act is going to do. It aims to identify market bottlenecks and to improve the economics of circular solutions. The potential is clear. If we can make more with the same amount of natural resources, we can improve our economic security and our resilience. We can increase our competitiveness, and we can reduce environmental impacts. We can reduce waste, create more value, and cut greenhouse gas emissions. Circularity alone measures, if we circular measures alone can deliver a decrease with 20 to 25% of the greenhouse gas emission that we have, and that we need, as you know, to reach our goals by 2050. Quite often, the bottlenecks can be very specific. Take plastic, for example. Plastic is a great invention, but plastic consumption has grown rapidly over the recent decades, and with that, of course, plastic waste. Yet recycling rates are not just good enough. According to Plastic Europe, only 13% of plastic production in 2023 was based on recycled plastics. Why? Yeah, because primary plastics are simply cheaper than secondary ones. Of course, this ignores the massive environmental, economic, security and social costs. We have done and we are doing a lot to tackle this, including legislation to support plastic waste prevention and recycling, trade measures to ensure a level playing field, and extended producer responsibility fees to help finance collection and recycling. But still, there isn't enough confidence in future demand, and this is the killer bottleneck. Investors won't build new recycling capacities unless they are confident that they will be able to sell the recycled materials. And we need to be very mindful of the level playing field. Our recyclers are not only up against EU competition, our EU markets are flooded with plastic from overseas. I'm sorry to say, but I don't have the silver bullet to fix it. But I am determined that we can find solutions. So let me also start with saying a few thoughts on the design of the Act. First, we need to be targeted. This is not one size fits all solution. The bottlenecks for plastic, which I talked about just now, is different from textiles, different from steel, different from aluminium or cement. And this means that the solutions will also be different. Second, our legislative processes need to consider and balance the needs of various economic operators, the recyclers, the producers, the traders, the consumers, and others. We are here walking a very fine line between having too much detail and complexity on the one hand, and establishing rules that are too general and lack nuance on the other. We have to get it right, and that takes time. We need to understand that markets, the bottlenecks, and the interests are involved. We have launched a call for evidence and public consultation to help answer these questions. It is open until the 6th of November. And your views and expertise are vital, so I really urge you to contribute. We will also undertake serious impact assessment. However, the challenges that we face are immediate. And this is my third point. Europe cannot wait. Europe is the #1 global export of services and #2 of exporter of goods. But EU industries is exposed to high energy cost, strategic dependencies, and the risk of the impact of overcapacities in other global regions. So we need to speed up the transition to circularity. Before the end of this year, we will adopt a series of short-term initiatives designed to boost investments, to apply trade measures where justified, and to simplify. Together with the other elements of the Clean Industrial Deal, these measures will help to make our vision for economic security, competitiveness, and decarbonization a reality. Fourth, and finally, it's said that laws are like sausages. And we don't want to know really how they are being made. I'm a lawyer by training and a lawmaker by trade, and I can confirm that creating laws is a quite messy business. It requires negotiations, collaboration, and compromises. But that doesn't mean that we should accept some of the unnecessary complexities that our systems throw up in the legislation. And that is exactly what we are trying to do now in this simplification omnibus. Our goal is to make it easier for businesses to do business while continuing to uphold our high environmental standards. Ladies and gentlemen, I began today on the importance of collaboration. and with a nod towards circularity, and I will finish here too. This cannot succeed without the input, the insight, and the experience of industry, civil society, academia, policymakers, and citizens, and businesses, big and small. So again, I urge you to engage and to commit, to help us, help me to close the loop, to drive the transition to a competitive, resilient, and circular economy. One circular economy that is good for businesses, good for citizens, good for the environment, and good for the future. Thank you very much.